This is Kristin.
And I'm Steve. And you were listening to Cycling Together, a show about all things bikes, riding, and riding together.
Nicely done.
And we are on location this time.
We are on location from the Steve the Bike Guy recording studio, mobile recording studio. Where are we, my love?
We are in Charleston, South Carolina.
That's right. And we have been on the road for the past week.
Yeah, 9 days.
We were lying when we said we were recording the other one from our house. So what are we going to talk about today?
Well, we figured that this would be a good opportunity to talk about taking a bike trip. Basically.
Planning a bike trip.
A bike road trip.
Exactly.
Planning and logistics and just other stuff that's come up with us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, as you said, we are 1 week into a 2-week trip. So what were some of the considerations for you as we started to think about this trip? And why did we decide on 2 weeks?
So it is February. Well, no, it's now March.
It is now March.
When we left, it was in February, and
Yep.
we had 6 inches of snow on the ground. And I believe we were having the coldest winter in something like 15 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, every day wouldn't get above 25. And so it
Right.
was, but even though the planning started way before that, and we just wanted to we thought, let's get out of the cold.
Right.
Right. And actually, I was sort of enjoying the cold this year. I don't know why.
Well, because it was really winter. Last year was not winter. This was winter. And we
Right.
talked about it on a past show.
Yeah.
If you live in New England, you can't hate winter. You know, there could be a point where you get tired of it. But no, I think we were really appreciating the snow. But we decided, first of all, we have a van. That's what we're sitting in. And we will be doing an episode about the van. We decided on 2 weeks because we knew to get a certain amount of away from all the cold was going to take us.
It was going to take us
some
time without those power days, and I just didn't want to do any of the power days. We've done last year. In fact, not even about a year ago, we did a 14-hour straight drive.
Right
down to North Carolina.
Yeah, that was Thanksgiving with
And
the kids.
we did not want to do that again.
Yeah, no. So that was part of it. Is we knew that it would take us a certain amount of time just to kind of get out of the cold. And we do have the flexibility, but it's also one of the considerations that you had to take into account. If we were going to take 2 weeks, I needed to be able to work. So that actually, in some ways, is why we decided on 2 weeks. Because if I was going to be working, I might as well extend it, right? Take some time, work.
And we hadn't done 2 weeks in a long, long time. 2 weeks in a row.
Years.
I mean, you're working.
Yes.
But it's been a long time since just taking 2 weeks away from the house.
This is the luxury of having kids in college too.
Right.
That, we didn't have to plan. Well, not that we didn't have to plan around them, but we actually knew we wanted to be back before their spring break, which is in a couple of weeks, because our daughter was going to come home, our son was flying somewhere. So there was a cap on this, on how late into the season we wanted to do it.
Right.
And also once April starts, obviously the bike shop starts hopefully getting busy. So that was another
and the winter, as it turns out, because it was so cold and because it was so snowy, it was definitely slower at the bike shop than other winters have been.
Yeah. I will be the first to say that my planning participation on this was nil. Not nil, but I just wanted to get in the van and go. I didn't necessarily.
Your participation was, I don't care. Just get me in the car and take me somewhere.
Just tell me where we're going.
Yes.
And when my main contribution was, yes, I'd like to go to that general area. No, I don't want to go to that general area. Here are the days I need to be online and available to clients. Right. Because I can do some work when we're driving. But these were the days I had a lot of calls. You are also the map man. So I don't think there's anything that makes you happier than just looking at maps.
No, planning with maps. Yeah, that's... Can I do a whole podcast called Planning with Maps?
I think you tried when you tried to have the maps behind us.
That might be my second favorite thing.
Yeah, exactly. We knew we wanted to go south.
Right. There was a thought maybe we would go to Florida. And if we went to Florida, okay, we're kind of guaranteed usually of some really nice weather. And there's a couple of really great trail systems in Florida I wanted to check out at some point. Santos Trails and Alafaya is another one.
Yeah.
But then it was like, well, if we can, I don't want to add on that extra. Well, the extra there and back is another 16 hours of driving or so.
Well, I was going to say it was that much further. Part of it was just figuring out how far could we get reasonably.
Yes.
In the first week, so that again you weren't driving. Let's be clear, I don't drive the van. I could drive the van. I don't want to drive the van. He is a terrible backseat driver. It's just we're happier when he's driving the van. But you driving 14 hours is fun for nobody.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So we had maximum. What was our longest driving day?
The first day we drove 8 hours.
Okay. So so that was number one consideration, like how far could we get? And that kind of took Florida out of the running because we would have had to drive that much. We would have had a couple of epic days, and we really haven't had, other than that first day. Mm-hmm. We haven't had a lot of epic days.
Right.
This is as south as we're going to get, right, Charleston?
It's Charleston. Yeah, and when I looked at the data, it said that I was surprised that there were a lot of 80-degree plus days in Charleston over the past 10 years in late February.
Yes.
And then a tremendous amount of 70s, and then almost guaranteed to be 60s.
Which is still balmy compared to New England.
And of course, when we left, there was a polar vortex just plunging down the whole East Coast. And so as we, at the end of that 8 hours, where it should have been 55 or so, it was 35, right? And so a lot of things we did were in our winter coats.
Yes. And we're going to talk about the sleeping, but in the planning. So it was, you looked at weather, you looked at data, you looked at facilities.
Oh yeah, I looked at the cell signals because you had to have cell signal.
Yes.
So I did look at that to make sure that any place we were going to stay was going to have. Now, of course,
it's always a little sketchy.
Those mobile companies, they'll overpromise on their maps all the time. Yeah.
Okay. And then, obviously, things we wanted to do. So we wanted to mountain bike. Riding, outside. And I'll admit, so we're new to the van life, RVing life thing. And I will admit this, when we talked about, we have camped where have we camped? Let's see. The first night we camped in a rest area with a bunch of other truck drivers. That was very cold. There were no facilities there. But ever since then, every facility we have been at, which is we've stayed at national parks, we've stayed at a state park, we have stayed here in a county park, right? They have had at each spot electricity, also known as shore power, water, and today they even had a pipe I could pour pee into out of our little potty. I did not know there were so many of these types of facilities around.
You didn't realize that a lot of these campgrounds are what are called full hookup.
Yeah. Oh, is that what that's called?
Full
that's
hookup.
The full. Yes. I mean, I was introduced to the concept when we went to Lake Placid, right? Because we had been to one of those. It's a whole new world. There is nothing in my life experience that told me these parks and facilities existed. They're fantastic.
Right.
And what's so cool is I'll in the YouTube put a video that I took as we drove out. I mean, one day we parked in a state park, in the beach, and we were next to a teepee. And 2 nights ago, we were next to a bus that we looked up that retailed, we think, for $2.5 million. And everything in between.
Well,
it's so cool.
One side of us were a bunch of cars and 2 tents. That's what they had.
Yeah.
Okay, and then on the other side was that $2.5 million marathon coach based on a Provost bus platform.
Ridiculous. Yeah. But that's what I just love there. I love that it opens up the outdoors. Because how much are we paying for each of these? What would you say is the low side and the high side for what we've paid for these full hookup?
So looking at a lot of the campgrounds that I was kind of going for, and the plan just changed so many times. So I looked at a lot of different campgrounds as I sort of planned the destinations.
Yeah.
And I would say in the $30 to $40 range was typical.
Okay.
This place, James County Park, is the most expensive the most expensive I've ever seen out of looking at any campground.
And how much is that?
It's I think $75 a night.
Wow.
Now, part of it is because it's in this whole park facility, and now a lot of the stuff isn't open because it's still low season here. They have water park, and
they have a
they
kids
have
area,
boat rental facilities.
I'm sorry, I am not renting a stand-up paddleboard in a place that also has gators. They have a whole
boathouse, and you can rent paddleboards, stand-up paddleboards, and little kayaks and that kind of stuff. And you go right into the water, of which there are warning alligator signs, of which we have walked 20 feet from 5 different alligators on our walks.
When we checked in, the lady said, "Oh, do you have a dog? There's a dog park over here." But there were 3 gators spotted there this morning. Or you can go to this other one. The gators don't go to that one. And I was like, okay, all right. Okay, so that was the most expensive, but they run.
It's also the closest to downtown.
That's
true.
True.
I think also why they can get the rates they do in a lot of ways.
Yeah. But the depth and the breadth of available spots. I mean, we stayed at a state park.
Yes.
That
was also Poinsett State Park in South Carolina.
That was still in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. That one was fantastic. Full hookup. Bathrooms right across from our tent spot, mountain bike trails right out the back. Right out the
back door of our van.
We ran into we didn't just see an armadillo. I don't know how to describe. Steve scared an armadillo, and it jumped up and it ran into Steve, and then it ran away, and then it turned back around, ran straight at me.
It charged you.
It charged me. It got charged by an armadillo. And then it bounced off my foot and rolled away. But that was right in the state park that we were staying in. That facility was also fantastic. How do you find these places?
Poinsett I am trying to balance riding with staying places.
Yes.
And so it's a lot of searching for those dual purpose places.
Okay.
And honestly, South Carolina is this dead zone of mountain biking. It is, if you go into Trail Forks.
Oh, okay.
And you look at, say, New England.
Yeah.
Right? New England is nothing like if you're zoomed out and you're looking at all of New England, it's just completely covered with hundreds of different riding areas. The names, and you zoom in, and it's just the blue, green, and black squiggle lines everywhere because how many trails. And then you go down to South Carolina, and you're like, well, this can't be right. There has to be an error going on here.
The data's not coming in. So is that what you do? Do you look at the Trail Forks first and go, okay, there's a clump here, and then zoom in there and see from there what kind of camping and facilities there are?
Yeah, and I mate the Trail Forks up against Strava heat maps. So then I'll check the Strava heat maps to both see if I'm missing something that's not on Trail Forks, which is definitely the case.
Yes.
All right. And then the other way around, does this area that looks like it has a decent network on Trail Forks, maybe it's just nobody's really using it.
Okay.
All right. So, and then it points it.
Anyone else would do, but okay. Yes.
Points it came up as, and then it was ranked the number, I think on Single Tracks, it was the number 3, maybe 2 or 3 of the most popular mountain bike destinations in South Carolina.
Okay.
And then
there
of course
5. No.
the Strava heat maps was white hot. So I was like, okay, a lot of people ride here. It's clearly popular.
Yep.
And we can camp right on the trails.
Yes.
So that we have to go there.
Which was great.
Right? And it's going to be warm.
Yes.
Right. So.
And it was.
And it was in the 70s.
And that was great because I could work in the morning, take a lunchtime ride, work in the afternoon. Right. You could keep riding. Mm-hmm. That was a perfect combination of things. But then you also found another trail system between there and here that was not a campground, but
that was a county park facility in woods.
Yeah.
So we were on the north side, and that was designated mountain bike trails.
It was great.
And then the other side, which we didn't see, but they have, again, a water park and splash pads and playgrounds and that kind of stuff.
Both of these places that we rode are a wonderful reminder, too, though, that how we assess trails in our area is not going to match how they are assessed elsewhere, right? So, like, in Poinsett, we went on the Black Diamond Trail, and it was not a Black Diamond Trail. I mean, it was the equivalent of, for those people in New England who would know when I say, like, Mount Wachusett Black Trail, which is our local mountain. And
me for skiing.
And Stowe, Vermont. Right? Like they're just completely different. And so same for this county trail system, beautiful trail system. Not a lot of shifting happening because there's no climbing. But oh my gosh, so much pedaling. I thought you never get to rest. You're always pedaling.
Yes, there's always pedaling.
There's no going downhill. You're always pedaling. And then they had a new, what they called like an advanced.
No, the technical.
Yes. The technical area. And I would love it at home for our beginner riders.
Yeah, there was not a single thing that was technical in there.
Yeah.
Not a single thing.
Yeah.
And South Carolina does have a couple of great mountain bike parks. One I think is called Stump House, out but very western, almost to the North Carolina border.
Okay.
And then they have a brand new one called Rattlesnake, which just opened up. And we were going to try to go there, but it's brand new. It's wintertime. There's only open Friday and Saturdays right now, and it just didn't line up.
Okay. Were some of the places that we stopped? We went to Kitty Hawk.
Yep. We went to the Kitty Hawk Memorial, the Wright Brothers Memorial.
The Wright Brothers Memorial. I will say, I'm probably the last person on the planet to know this, but apparently the Wright Brothers owned a bicycle shop. I don't know how either. I learned that information at some point and it got removed from my brain by more important information. Like
I think you are the last person to know that.
Well, there you go. I'm admitting it publicly.
But that was really good.
It was exciting.
Very simple park, but it was really nice.
It was well planned. We went while we were down there. We went to the dunes, which I don't think we knew that. I didn't know there were.
No.
There's the nice thing about not being that tuned into the planning is everything's a surprise.
Yeah, that's right.
You can't be disappointed because you didn't know what to expect, right? Like when you also had to. So we ended up moving the whole trip by a week, which is one of the advantages of the van travel, because of weather here and at home, and so anything that we missed out on because you changed it, I don't know.
You don't know. Because the itinerary has definitely evolved and changed. Well, it got radically changed after we decided to delay for a week.
Right.
And then even now it has been like in process, it's been changed.
Well, what's interesting about a van trip that, again, you can't necessarily do, or a road trip, well, it doesn't have to have a van, but not a plane trip, is that the flexibility, like you had us planned to about Friday to here, but we did too. We extended once at the county.
Yeah, Poinsett.
At Poinsett. We extended there because the Wi-Fi was great, the trails were great,
the weather was amazing.
And you didn't have a stop between there and here.
Yeah, I purposely left out a few days of no planned stops.
Right.
And you can do that a little easier in February because the problem, I think, if you were May, June, July, summer, it was that a lot of these, if you're planning on staying in one of these campgrounds, they're just sold out. So I sort of knew, okay, if we wanted to extend, not a problem. If we wanted to come into a campground early, not a problem. Extend later, not a problem.
Right.
I would say this one here at James County Park is probably 98% full. It was the hardest, I suppose. But
we had to move.
There were spots.
Yeah, we had to move camp.
We had to move spots
sites.
to get stay, but that wasn't a problem.
Yeah, so we decided to extend. So I think that's the kind of neatest thing about this is that you can say, "Oh, this is really great. Let's stay here a couple of extra days," or we decided tomorrow we're going to we're going to drive to a mountain bike park, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to hang out there, and then we're going to head over to Raleigh where we're planning on seeing your family. But like that was flexibility that originally we were just going to leave here and go straight to your mom. And it was like, oh, wait, what's another place you can explore?
Right. But because, of course, as I said, Eastern South Carolina is devoid of...
Yes, not a lot.
A lot of riding, where actually the park is in North Carolina.
Okay, that's fine. No, what I was thinking of is there was one woman that funny enough, I've met her online. Our kids are in college together. I haven't actually met her in person, but she and I were chatting online about planning adventure trips, and she was saying she was going to do something with her son and her husband, but her son was like, we need to go fishing and go riding every single day. And I want to say to her, that's a lot. I've been surprised by just how long it takes to get any given thing to get settled, to then also do something epic.
Absolutely.
Every day.
I agree that is also, I guess, surprised me in a way. I think that's why when we were, say, being at that one state park for many, many day after day, then you're settled in and you actually get to sort of enjoy those full days a little more than arriving at a spot, doing something, and then moving on to another spot because you want to do something the next day.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, even if it's like, oh, we want to get an early start tomorrow to get to the next place. Yeah. And we would get up early, but even just the process of getting up early in the van, getting yourselves ready. Yes. We made coffee, and you're like, we're not going to take a shower. We're just kind of get the basics done and get out of here. And you're like, wait a minute, how did that take an hour and a half?
Exactly.
Because you're constantly pulling things out and putting them away in the van. Yes. Right? Because they're not just sitting out. Yeah. You want to make the bed. You want to...
We do try to keep it neat.
Get the trash out. Yeah. So, I mean,
it just takes even if you were...
It just takes time.
Even if you were driving from hotel to hotel, though, I still think it just always takes longer than you think it's going to take. I think that's what's been surprising is, in some ways, we've done less. And yes, I feel like I have less time. Like I'm trying to have stuff that we normally I'd be sitting on my couch doing, and I'm like, when am I going to do that? Like, of course, we've been going to bed at 8.
It still gets dark early, of course, right?
Yep.
And it's
a little chilly.
And the days have been super warm to downright hot, and then the nights get chilly. Yep. And you're dark, like pitch black dark by 7. Nice. And then we've been eating dinner late though, but then you start to get to that sort of 7, 8 o'clock area, and you're like, well, I got to download a movie or a couple downloaded shows. We watched 2 shows, and it's like 9:30, and asleep. That's done. Let's just go to
Yeah, I mean, with the camping though, even the just showering, right? Like we do have a shower here in the van, but it's a last resort, right? Like it's a last resort shower.
Yeah, I come back from a mountain bike ride, sweaty. I'm in the trailhead parking lot. I got to rinse off.
All of these places have had great bathhouse facilities. Mm-hmm. I think it's so funny. Some of the things, like the first place had a great shower, but no shelf in the shower. Like there was always one little thing that you were like, okay, first shower. Second one, I think was similar. Better water pressure, good hot water, no shelf for you to put stuff. This one has pretty good water pressure, excellent heat, has a shelf. Shower is pointed out towards you.
Yes.
So of course you have to reach in. Now the water is shooting out.
And the head doesn't
go down.
So you've got this little vestibule in the front. You got a door, a vestibule for your clothes and your stuff, and then the shower curtain, and then the actual shower. And the shower just like if you don't line up the curtain and make sure it's blocking everything, and even then it's pouring water out into the vestibule area where you're trying to keep your shoes
but I got my shelf. It's so interesting. Yeah, it's just so interesting how they're all like they're just so close. What are some other things if you were to say to someone who wanted to plan a trip like this, what would be that's our dog, if you can hear her, recommendations? Like, what would you say to someone who wants to plan a trip like this?
I think a lot of people, when they're planning sort of a trip to ride, they're choosing a destination, right? And so in our case, we wanted to bop around to multiple destinations, and we're not going to get to all the ones I had planned. So, for instance, when we extended at points that I had another thing planned to go to, but it was like, but why? We're comfortable. We're set in place. We know the Wi-Fi works. We know that, we know the cell signal's good, and the trails are right here. Why?
Yeah,
right?
I will say we haven't ridden maybe as much as I thought we were going to.
Yep.
Partially because we moved a little bit. Partially because my back is bothering me. But I'm not disappointed. But it's like we didn't ride today. We went to
and we could have ridden
to see a battleship, an aircraft carrier. So we have done things. But yeah, if you're doing a fully, I can see you would just go to a mountain bike place and you would stay there and it would just be epic ride after epic ride.
Yeah, or road or whatever, depending on where you're going. Yep. But if you're bouncing around, then I would say certainly don't underestimate the time it takes to get yourself to the place, get ready. And so trying to do travel and riding in too compact of a time is too much, right? Yep. So if you want to really get in rides, you're going to have to spend a few days at a place so that that's all, when you wake up, that's your agenda for the day, going for the ride.
Right.
Yep. It comes down to like using those resources, but you have to use to find these places, and you have to use them all. Trail Forks, if you're mountain biking, Trail Forks is great.
Yep.
And then for all types of riding, gravel, road, and mountain, the Strava heat maps.
Right.
You can't see the heat maps unless you have a premium subscription, unfortunately.
Okay.
But seeing where people go the most and seeing which trails they take the most, it can be very good. It can also be a little detrimental because a lot of people tend to take not the interesting route or not the interesting trail.
Yep.
And certainly if you look at for road riding, you're going to find that it's like the main roads, and it's not the great back roads, which are going to be the most travels. It's the worst roads to ride on.
That doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, I've gone on enough group rides that you did not plan the route to know that people don't connect, especially on the road. They don't connect roads like you do, right? And that's probably a whole nother topic we could talk about, which is planning routes. I think if you're not going to a destination for mountain biking, but instead you're going to a place that has mountain biking, you're going to be taking a little bit of a risk that maybe it's great mountain biking, maybe it's okay mountain biking, but if you have other things that you are also planning, then it's the icing on the cake for me. Like, that place we stopped, that county park, I had no expectations of it. We were just it was going to be a long drive. Halfway through, we stopped so that we could go take a bike ride. Whatever we were going to get done was like good. Expectations is a huge piece of it.
Yeah,
and it's why it's been so great for me, because I have none.
we got 8 miles in there, and it was fun. It was a beautiful day, and it was just nice to get it back on the bike and
it was
after the long drive and pedal.
It was super. I mean, if you look, I might be able to put a screenshot in, but I mean, I think why they said it was technical is it was super windy, and that was just really cool. Like that's
that's how they fit all that miles into that tight area. But they did it really well in that we've been to places that have been super twisty, and they're make bad. The radius too tight so that you can't pedal and you can't flow through around the corner. Yeah. And this had just the right radius of turns that it was really twisty and fun because you could maintain speed and keep pedaling.
I like going to other trail systems that I haven't been to, also in part to just see their signage, which sounds like such a weird thing to say, but they had those very cool signs that said, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we go this direction. And on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we go this direction. And I was like, that is so cool. Very clear.
Actually, I wish
flavor. I thought that was great.
That. I wish that was a little bit more around us.
I'm going to share it. I'm sharing it with the, it's on my list to share in the Slack with our our chapter to say it's not going to be right for every place, but there are definitely some places I think it could be really cool if you were to say, everybody go that way.
Yeah,
no arguments.
Hikers and bikers.
Yeah.
And that way...
was just neat to see. It was neat to see.
Flows so much better.
All right. Anything else you'd like to share for this one on this trip?
No, this is just sort of a conversation about our weeks out here.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for this. We did get a comment on our show, How to Buy Mountain Bike Gear for Speedy Kids and Teens. I'm going to read it to you.
Okay.
This is from a coach of NEYC who said, thanks for the episode, guys. This is great stuff. On pants. So he was talking, we're talking about gear, okay? Yes. The concern is what happens when they get wet from riding through a puddle or stream crossings, unexpected rain, sweaty from riding hard. We talked about jeans being a problem. Sweatpants are a problem.
Yep.
They recommend tights. So cycling tights, cheap. Or just like...
Well, yeah. I mean, cycling tights are great. I just didn't...
Not necessarily
it's hard to get kids into cycling tights.
I'm thinking more like leggings, I think is what we're really talking about. We're basically talking about thin, stretchy pants. We won't tell the boys they're called leggings. But basically
tights.
They go... Yes, we call them tights. They basically, he says, they're cheap and disposable if they get ripped. So now we're talking about like Target tights.
Okay. Yeah, we are not talking about cycling tights.
We're going to get caught. They're disposable if they get ripped. Won't get caught in the chain or pedals like gym pants. Those were the ones we talked about. But I think those are not the way to go. They go over the bib shorts, under the baggy shorts, under the socks. I had actually shown a picture.
Oh, I see what they're talking about.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. So that's the thought. And he's absolutely right. You can get them really cheap at like Walmart, Target, online. Hydration. He agreed with your wife. They do recommend hydration packs for all riders unless they're older and more experienced. Younger racers will only do 1 or 2 laps, of course, so there isn't an opportunity for the feed zone refueling. And even with shorter distances, the kids may be out there for an hour or more on a hot, dusty day in June. They need to be drinking, as Kristin mentioned. The hydration packs stick the nozzle right by the mouth so a rider can quickly get the nozzle. Basically, he was like, younger riders are too inexperienced, and if we give them a water bottle, it's going to come back full.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Hydration packs are definitely the way. The last thing was about repair kits. And he says every rider should have a repair kit all the time, though for races, they may want to pare it down to save weight and bulk. Okay, so let's assume, because I'm going to ask you a question in a second, let's assume non-race scenario.
Okay.
This kit should have the tools and parts to fix their bike.
Yeah.
If someone comes into the shop to you and says, let's ignore the wheels and the tires for a second. Steve, what should I go out with in a pack to make sure I can fix my bike?
Okay.
Should something happen? What would you say should go into that?
When you said fix your bike, you're talking about the
mountain bike.
Flat too?
No.
So you do, it's wise to carry a multi-tool.
Okay.
And the biggest thing about when you get your multi-tool is, does it have the items that are on your bike? And when I say items, I mean sort of the bolts. A lot of bikes nowadays, I would say a little less so than the kids' bikes, but it's definitely possible. I know they're out there, come with many Torx bolts.
Okay.
All right. And so your tool might not have Torx drivers.
Oh.
And therefore you couldn't tighten a stem bolt. You couldn't tighten your seat collar bolt if your seat's slipping down.
Don't just grab a multi-tool off the shelf.
Look, this is a multi-tool. It's going to have everything I need.
What you want to make sure is you want to take that tool out and you want to stick it in all the bolty things and make sure it's what you need.
Yeah, and a shop can help you with that. Like if your bike requires a hex key to take out the through axle, say, it doesn't have a lever built in, right?
Yes.
Well, some of those are 5 millimeter, some are 6 millimeter.
Okay.
There's actually multi-tools out there without 6 millimeter. So now all of a sudden you're like, wait, I got this tool and I can't take off my wheel, right? So it's that kind of important stuff. And really, the bolts that you're looking to do, you need to be able to take out your through axles. You want to be able to tighten your handlebar bolts on your stem and the rear stem bolts. Yep. The seat collar bolt, because your seat might start slipping down.
Okay.
That's okay. Ideally, if you have full suspension, you want one for the pivot the pivot bolts as well.
Okay.
All right. Those are really often T30s, a Torx 30.
Okay.
That's a not a necessarily a common one on many multi-tools. It's becoming more and more because it's becoming more of a standard for use on full suspension. Those are your main bolts that could be a problem. Yeah. Oh, and pedals. So some pedals, you're not going to carry a big flat wrench for the outside. So you're going to carry, so from the inside, the back side of the crank, that's going to have a hex key on the inside of the axle.
Yeah.
And that's going to be either 6 or 8 millimeters.
Okay.
And if you have an 8 millimeter one, again, or even the 6, your tool, you have to make sure your tool comes with it.
Okay, so you want to make sure your tool comes with it. Yeah. How about something for the chain?
So that would be a multi-tool that has a chain breaker.
Okay.
Okay. And when I say chain breaker, that's sometimes that confuses people. That means that it splits a link apart.
Chain disassembler.
Yes, a chain disassembler.
The kids are the chain breakers. Yeah. And a spare link.
And then a spare quick link.
Okay, what is that?
For your chain. And that's the important one. So it's based on both the speed of the chain and then the type of the chain in many regards.
Again,
so it's a quick link for your chain. That can, if you break a link on a chain, you can let's say you've got like a mangled, twisted link.
Yeah.
The chain breaker tool on your multi-tool will extract that twisted link.
Yep.
All right, and then you can put the chain back together really easily with a quick link.
Quick link. Okay.
But in some cases, your chain may be a little short.
Ooh.
And if your derailleur system was already at the maximum with the chain that was on there.
Oh.
What I mean is if you're on your largest ring in the front, and you may only have one, but so that ring, and then the largest cog in the back, the derailleur is stretched out, and it's sort of it can be at its limit of how far it can stretch.
Okay.
It can be. Usually it's not. Usually you could take out a link and it'd be all right. It won't shift necessarily great in those couple gears, but it'll be okay. Well, sometimes if it's too short and you take out that link, if then the kid shifts to that largest cog again in the back, they can rip the derailleur off the bike. They can damage the derailleur. They'll damage the derailleur for sure. They can damage the frame. They can damage the wheel. It can be a little catastrophic. So it's important for yourself and if you're a coach to check if you're helping them take out a damaged link, to make sure that gear combination is going to work.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we do have flats.
Right.
And we won't go into the details, but you should have what you need to fix the flat on yours. So if you're tubeless, you want to make sure you have a
plug kit.
Yep. If you're not tubeless, you want to make sure you have a
spare tube or
a patch kit.
Or ideally both. If you have a tube and you want a spare tube and a patch kit, and they make stick-on patches now. You don't have to go through the whole rubber cement thing.
Like
so you
Band-Aids.
it's just like a peel and stick sticker.
Yep.
Those work really well.
Okay, and either a pump or a CO2 cartridge.
Yep, an inflation device.
Some way to get the air
in. And tire levers to get the tire off to get that replacement tube back in.
If you have tubeless, is there any value to carrying a tube?
There is.
Okay, but then you would need levers also.
Yeah, we need levers also.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did have somebody say to me, I'm on tubeless, but I like to carry a tube because it also makes for great sling. if somebody's broken something. So I think he was an AMT. Okay. So following his advice, your local bike shop will be great help in making sure the pack has all the right stuff in it. And I think that's what we've really said here is make sure that you talk to your bike shop, that you get what you need. And then that's also where you can maybe say to them, is my chain long enough? Will I be okay if I need to pull a link?
You actually right? You can, because I can tell that. I can put a bike up on the stand, put it into that lowest gear. Well, it's not the lowest, but that gear combination.
Gear.
And then basically say, you have a little slack in your derailleur. If you took, and I can actually, you can take the chain. You can do this yourself. You can fold over a link.
Oh, okay.
And you can say, it does it. I can fold over a link, and the derailleur, right? And it's not yanking fully on.
If you break your chain and you reconnect it, is that chain good still?
It can be.
Okay.
Some bikes...
But it's short.
Yeah, some bikes have a leeway that they'll be operational within a link.
Yeah.
And so occasionally... but a lot of the new 12-speed drivetrains are very intolerant. So what happens is when you lose a link, you've changed the gap between the upper pulley of the derailleur and the cog.
Okay.
And that has to be very precise. Oh. So in some cases, it's possible you can just adjust that distance on your derailleur and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
In other cases, it's never going to quite work. It'll work, but just not great. Okay. Usually the situation is if you're in the largest cog in the back, it won't come off of that. You have to shift down twice in order to get it to come off.
Oh, okay.
So it really is, it's dependent.
Yeah.
But it can be just fine.
Okay.
And then if it is and you have no shifting problems and you've taken a link out, just keep running it until that chain is done. It's time to replace it anyway.
Keep on pedaling. Well, I think that does it for this episode. Look at us go. Cycling Together with Kristin and Steve is a production of Steve the Bike Guy, an independent bicycle shop in Eastern Massachusetts, and Sundin Marketing.
If you like the show, please leave a review and share with a friend. For show notes, links, or to leave a comment, question, or topic suggestion, visit cyclingtogether.bike. And you can follow the bike shop, Steve the Bike Guy, on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube at Steve the Bike Guy.
Thank you for joining the ride.
See you next time.
This is Kristin.
And this is Steve. And you are listening... No, again. Sorry.
This is Kristin.
And I'm Steve. And you're listening to Cycling Together, the podcast about all things bikes, riding, and riding together. Again.